64 ounces, 8 full glasses. That is what Eleanor, 74 years old, drank yesterday, carefully, on schedule, exactly the way she was told to. And by 4 in the afternoon, her mouth was dry, her head ached, her skin tented when she pinched it, and she felt the same gray fatigue she has felt for 2 years. If you are over 70 and you are drinking plenty of water and still feeling like a wrung-out towel by mid-afternoon, this video is for you, because the problem may not be how much water you drink. The problem may be what is in the water and what your body over 70 can no longer do with plain water on its own. There is a reason the glass of water you drink at 10 in the morning can be gone from your body by 11:30 without ever properly reaching the cells that needed it. And it comes down to a handful of minerals, a set of microscopic water channels in your brain that most people have never heard of, and one very old kitchen tradition, the slow-simmered root vegetable broth, that quietly solves several of these problems at once. In the next 25 minutes, I'm going to walk you through why plain water can pass through an older body without doing its job, the specific ways your hydration machinery changes after 70, the exact method for building a mineral-rich root broth at your own stove for under $3 a batch, the single cooking mistake that sends most of the benefit down the drain, and the 3 groups of people who should not try any of this without talking to their doctor first, because for them, more fluid and more minerals can actually be dangerous. And there is one more thing. There is a discovery about the water channels in your brain, published in one of the world's leading neurology journals, that reframes what hydration even means for your thinking and your memory. Most doctors never mention it to their patients. I will get to it in a few minutes, and once you hear it, you will not look at a glass of water the same way again. Here is exactly what I'm going to walk you through today. Promise number 1. The plain language explanation of why water without minerals can move through your body like a tourist who never checks into the hotel, and which 2 electrolytes, named by the National Institutes of Health itself, decide whether that water stays or leaves. Promise number 2. The 3 specific changes in the aging body, including one documented in a small study of older men under heat stress all the way back in 1989, that make people over 70 uniquely vulnerable to this problem, even when they drink faithfully. Promise number 3. The precise build of a root vegetable broth. Which vegetables, what size pot, how long to simmer, and how much to drink, that you can make this week for about the cost of a cup of coffee. Promise number 4. The cooking method detail, tested in a 2024 food science study that determines whether the good compounds end up in your cup or in your sink. Promise number 5. The 3 medical situations, and I will name each one specifically, where this approach needs a physician's sign-off first, because broth is not harmless for everyone. And anyone who tells you otherwise is not being straight with you. My name is Dr. Vitalis, and this channel exists for one purpose: to take the health science that gets buried in journals and agency websites and translate it into plain, specific, usable language for adults in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. Everything I say today is grounded in published research or official health information, and I will name the sources out loud as we go so you can judge them for yourself. Before we go further, if this channel has ever made a confusing topic clear for you, take 1 second and tap the like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps this reach the people who need it. That is the only ask. Now let's get to work. Let me tell you about Eleanor properly. Eleanor is a composite, built from the patterns in the messages this channel receives every single week, so the details are blended, but the pattern is absolutely real. Eleanor is 74. She lives alone in a two-bedroom house outside Dayton, Ohio, the same house since 1989. 2 years ago, her daughter noticed she seemed foggy on the phone in the afternoons. So, Eleanor did what a responsible person does. She went to her doctor. Her labs came back mostly unremarkable, and she left with the advice nearly every older adult in America has received at some point. Drink more water. So, Eleanor bought a marked water bottle, 64 ounces, and she drank it down every day, rain or shine, for 2 years. And here is what those 2 years actually looked like. She was in the bathroom 8, 9, 10 times a day, twice a night. Her afternoon fog did not lift. Her skin stayed papery. On a hot week in July, she got dizzy standing up from her garden bed, sat down hard on the grass, and stayed there for 10 minutes because she did not trust her legs. She was doing the thing. She was drinking the water. And she was still, functionally, running dry. When her daughter finally sat with her and mapped out a typical day, one detail jumped off the page. Eleanor drank almost all of her water on an empty stomach, plain, filtered, and stripped between meals, and her meals themselves had shrunk to toast, coffee, a sandwich, tea. Almost no cooked vegetables, almost no soups, almost none of the mineral-carrying foods that her generation grew up on and quietly abandoned somewhere along the way. Eleanor was pouring water into a system that had lost much of its ability to hold it. And here is the sentence I need you to sit with, because it is the reason this video exists. Eleanor is not unusual. Eleanor is the standard case. If you are over 70, drinking diligently and still tired, still foggy, still dry, there is a reasonable chance you are living some version of Eleanor's pattern right now. And the fix is not another glass of the same water. So let's open the machine and look at why this happens, because once you see the mechanism, everything else in this video becomes obvious. Here it is in one sentence. Water does not stay in your body because you swallowed it. Water stays in your body because minerals hold it there. The National Institutes of Health, on its Medline Plus Health Information Service, lays this out plainly. Electrolytes, minerals like sodium and potassium, are what balance the amount of water in your body, and they are what help move nutrients into your cells and wastes out of them. Think of sodium and potassium as the ushers of the theater. Water is the crowd. Without ushers, the crowd mills around the lobby and drifts back out the front door. With ushers, the crowd gets seated, row by row, cell by cell, where the performance actually happens. When you drink plain water on an empty stomach, especially a lot of it at once, you are sending in a crowd with no ushers. Your blood gets briefly diluted. Your kidneys read that dilution as too much water on board, and they do exactly what they are built to do. They pull the excess out and send you to the bathroom. The water passed through. It was counted on Eleanor's bottle. It never fully checked in. Now layer aging on top of that, and this is where a very old piece of research becomes very relevant. In 1989, researchers published a study in the American Journal of Physiology, a small study of older men under heat stress, comparing young men and older men exposed to heat while dehydrated. The older men lost more of their plasma volume, the water portion of their blood, and their thirst and temperature regulation responses behaved differently from the young men's. Now let me ask you a question, and answer it honestly. When was the last time you actually felt thirsty on a hot afternoon, really thirsty, before you were already tired and headachy? If you cannot remember, you are seeing this finding in your own life. The older body, under the same stress, lost more of its circulating fluid and was worse at signaling that anything was wrong. That is the cruel double bind of hydration after 70. The tank leaks faster and the fuel gauge reads high. By the time an older adult feels genuinely thirsty, they are often already meaningfully behind. Which is exactly why Eleanor could get dizzy in her July garden while technically hitting her water quota. And now the part I promised you at the start, the part about your brain. In 2022, a paper in the journal Brain, one of the most respected neurology journals in the world, described the behavior of water channels in the central nervous system called aquaporin 4. These are microscopic protein channels that let water flow in and out of cells in both directions, and the paper showed they are not fixed doors. They are dynamically regulated, moved around within the cell depending on conditions, actively managing the water balance of your brain. Your brain, in other words, is not a sponge that passively soaks. It is running an active, adjustable plumbing system minute by minute, which means hydration is not a bucket you fill. It is a system you support, and systems need materials, not just volume. Eleanor's water was going straight through her because she was supplying volume to a system that was starving for the materials, the sodium, the potassium, the minerals that the whole apparatus runs on. That is the mechanism. Everything from here forward is about how to supply it well. Now, Eleanor is one pattern. Let me show you two more, because this problem wears different disguises depending on who it visits, and I want you to recognize yours. Meet Walter. Walter is 68, lives in Tucson, Arizona, retired from 31 years as a high school shop teacher, and takes a daily diuretic his cardiologist prescribed for blood pressure. A diuretic, by design, pushes fluid and certain electrolytes out of the body. Walter also walks every morning, which in Tucson from May through September means walking in serious heat. Remember what that 1989 study in the American Journal of Physiology found about older men in heat? Greater plasma volume loss, blunted responses. Walter is living that pattern every single morning, with a medication on top that tilts the same direction. He drinks water on his walk, a full bottle, and still comes home lightheaded some days with leg cramps 2 or 3 nights a week. Cramps, lightheadedness in heat, on a diuretic. Walter's disguise for this problem is muscular and cardiovascular. His plain water is necessary but not sufficient, and for a man in his situation, anything involving added fluid and minerals absolutely has to be coordinated with the cardiologist, which I will come back to. Because Walter is one of my 3 caution cases. Now meet Margaret. Margaret is 71, in Portland, Oregon, a retired librarian, and her complaint is not physical at all. It is the 3 o'clock fog. Every afternoon, her focus dissolves, her mood dips, and a dull headache settles in behind her eyes. She has had her eyes checked, her thyroid checked, her blood pressure checked. Nobody thought to check her fluid habits, which turn out to be 2 coffees, 1 glass of water with lunch, and a glass of wine at dinner. Here is why that matters. A 2019 narrative review in the journal Nutrients, looking at hydration and health outcomes in the general population, reported that adequate hydration supports neurological function, and specifically named cognition, mood, and headache. Cognition, mood, headache. Margaret's entire 3 o'clock experience listed in a peer-reviewed hydration review. That does not mean hydration is the whole story for every foggy afternoon, and I am not diagnosing Margaret or you. But when the 3 symptoms that ruin your afternoon are the same 3 that hydration research keeps flagging, the cheapest experiment available is fixing the fluid pattern before chasing anything more exotic. And one more, briefly, because I know many of you watching noticed it in the mirror before you felt it anywhere else. Frank, 76, Grand Rapids, Michigan, started noticing his forearm skin had gone crepey and slack faster in the last 2 years than in the previous 10. Skin is where fluid and nutrition status becomes visible. A 2025 review in the journal Biomolecules described how nutritional elements within the skin help maintain skin health and counter skin aging. The skin is not just a wrapper. It is a living tissue with its own nutritional demands, and it tends to be last in line when the body is rationing fluid and minerals. Frank's disguise for this problem is cosmetic, but the underlying ledger is the same one Eleanor and Walter and Margaret are running. 3 people, 4, counting Eleanor, 4 different disguises, 1 shared mechanism. Water without support poured into aging systems that need more than volume. Which brings us to the kitchen, and to the specific, practical answer this entire video has been building toward. The slow-simmered root vegetable broth. Not a supplement, not a powder, not anything with a subscription. A pot, water, root vegetables, salt, and heat. Here is why this particular preparation earns its place. When you simmer vegetables in water for a long time, the water-soluble minerals and compounds in those vegetables migrate out of the plant tissue and into the liquid. And with a broth or a soup, unlike with boiled and drained vegetables, you drink the liquid. The water arrives in your body already carrying its ushers: sodium from the salt you add, potassium and other minerals drawn from the vegetables themselves. It is warm, which many older adults find easier to take in slowly and steadily than cold water. And it is food-paired hydration, which means it does not hit your kidneys as a sudden wave of dilution the way a fast pint of plain water can. This is also broadly consistent with the direction of modern rehydration science. A 2024 review in the journal Nutrients, covering dehydration models and rehydration strategies, examined how fluids are restored alongside electrolytes, not water in isolation. The entire field of rehydration works on the principle of water plus electrolytes together. Your great-grandmother's soup pot was running that principle a century before anyone wrote it down. So here is exactly what to do in order. Step 1. Build the base broth this weekend. Take a large pot, roughly 5 quarts. Add 2 carrots, 2 parsnips, 1 medium turnip or rutabaga, 1 onion with the skin on for color, 2 stalks of celery, all rough chopped, no precision required. Cover with about 4 quarts of cold water. Add 1 teaspoon of salt and hold that thought because salt is where my caution cases come in. Bring it just to a boil, then drop it to the barest simmer, lid mostly on, for 90 minutes to 2 hours. Strain it. You will get roughly 3 quarts of amber liquid and your total ingredient cost is in the neighborhood of $3. That is a multi-day supply for less than 1 coffee. Step 2. Deploy it at the right times, and this matters more than people think. The 2 highest value windows are mid-morning and mid-afternoon. 1 warm mug, 8 to 10 ounces, sipped over 15 or 20 minutes rather than gulped. Mid-afternoon is Margaret's fog window, and it is exactly when a slow, mineral-carrying fluid earns its keep. Keep drinking plain water, too. This is not a replacement for water. It is reinforcement for it, 1 or 2 mugs a day, alongside your normal fluids. Step 3. Do not sabotage the pot. And here is the cooking method detail I promised you. Promise number 4. In 2024, researchers published a study in the journal Foods on vegetable lentil soup, comparing cooking techniques: ordinary boiling, pressure cooking, sous vide, and a vacuum cooking method, and measuring how each affected the bioaccessibility of vitamin C, carotenoids, and phenolic compounds, meaning how available those compounds actually were for your body to use. The headline for you is simple. The way you cook measurably changes what your body can extract from the same ingredients. Technique is not a detail, it is part of the recipe. So, 3 rules. Simmer low. Do not hammer it at a rolling boil for 2 hours. If you own a pressure cooker, it is a legitimate option. Shorter time, sealed environment. And the ironclad rule above all others: never separate the vegetables from their cooking water and pour that water away. With ordinary boiled vegetables, the water-soluble compounds leach into the water, and the water goes down the drain. With broth and soup, the drain gets nothing. You get everything. This one habit, keeping the cooking liquid, may be the single cheapest nutritional upgrade available in an American kitchen. Step 4. Upgrade it into a full soup twice a week. Take your strained broth, return it to the pot, and add a cup of lentils, more chopped root vegetables, and simmer until tender. Now you have the vegetable lentil soup family that the 2024 food study actually examined: fluid, electrolytes, protein, and fiber in one bowl. For an older adult fighting both dehydration and shrinking appetite, a bowl of thick soup does jobs that a water bottle cannot touch. Step 5, and this is promise number 5, the caution list, and I need your full attention here because this is where protective honesty matters more than enthusiasm. Group 1. Anyone with heart failure or on a fluid restriction. Your cardiologist may have set precise limits on both fluid and sodium. A daily salted broth can violate both. Do not start this without that conversation. Group 2. Anyone with chronic kidney disease. Compromised kidneys can struggle to clear potassium, and root vegetable broths are naturally potassium-rich. For most people, that is a feature. For someone with kidney disease, it can be genuinely dangerous. Physician first, broth second, if at all. Group 3. Anyone on blood pressure medication and especially diuretics, which is Walter's situation exactly. Diuretics deliberately alter your fluid and electrolyte balance, and adding a daily sodium and potassium-carrying drink changes the equation your prescriber built. It may be completely fine. It may require an adjustment. Only your doctor can say which. If you are in any of these 3 groups, take this video to your next appointment and ask directly. That is not a legal formality. That is the actual correct move. Before we close, one bonus insight for the people who like to go a level deeper, because there is a detail hiding in the food science that almost nobody applies at home. Heat is a double-edged sword in the pot. It is what liberates minerals and compounds into your broth, but heat handled carelessly also degrades some of the fragile ones, which is part of why that 2024 foods study found real differences between cooking techniques, and why food scientists have repeatedly shown that gentler heat treatment preserves more of the delicate, heat-sensitive compounds in vegetables. The practical translation for your kitchen is this: gentle and long beats violent and long. A broth at a bare, shivering simmer where the surface barely moves extracts patiently and destroys less. A furious 2-hour boil extracts too, but it costs you more of the delicate cargo along the way. Watch the surface of your pot. If it looks angry, turn it down. That is the whole advanced technique, and it costs nothing. One caveat: do not let this refinement become an excuse for paralysis. An imperfect broth that you actually make every week is worth infinitely more than a perfect one you never start. So let me bring this home, and let me resolve the loops we opened. Why was Eleanor's water going straight through her? Because water stays where minerals hold it, sodium and potassium, exactly as the National Institutes of Health describes, and she was drinking stripped water into a mineral-poor day with an aging system that, as that small 1989 American Journal of Physiology study of older men under heat stress suggested, can lose fluid faster and signal thirst worse. What was the brain discovery most doctors never mention? That 2022 paper in the journal Brain on aquaporin 4, showing that the brain's water channels are dynamically regulated, actively managed rather than fixed. To be clear, no drink, broth included, directly flips a switch on those channels. What the finding changes is the frame. Hydration is a system to support, not a bucket to fill. And the cooking mistake that throws the benefit away? Draining the liquid. The water-soluble compounds go where the water goes, so drink the water. Broth, soup, never the drain. Here is what this week looks like if you act on this. Saturday, 1 pot, $3 of root vegetables, 2 hours of unattended simmering. Sunday through Thursday, 1 warm mug mid-morning, 1 mid-afternoon, sipped slowly, alongside your regular water. Twice this week, a bowl of the lentil version as an actual meal. And if you are in one of my 3 caution groups, heart failure or fluid restriction, kidney disease or blood pressure medication, the very first step is a phone call to your doctor's office, not a trip to the produce aisle. Everything in this video is educational. It is not medical advice. It is not a diagnosis, and it is not a substitute for the physician who knows your chart, your medications, and your history. What it is a map of a mechanism that almost nobody explains to older adults, and a $3 100-year-old kitchen practice that lines up remarkably well with what the modern research keeps pointing toward. Water plus minerals, delivered gently, held properly. If you have a parent, a spouse, or a neighbor in their 70s who carries a water bottle everywhere and still complains of fatigue, fog, or dizziness, send them this video today, because the odds are good they are living Eleanor's pattern. And nobody has ever shown them why. And if this was worth your 25 minutes, tap the like button and subscribe to the channel so the next one reaches you the day it goes up. I'm Dr. Vitalis. I will see you in the next one.